The following video will contain slight spoilers for Chapter 5, as well as major spoilers for Chapter 4, so if you haven't played either, I advise you to be warned. If you still want to continue, then let's start. The Prophecy, which whispers among the shadows, the legend of this world, Deltarune. A world basked in purest light, beneath it grew eternal night. If fountains freed the roaring cries, and tightened shape from darkened eyes, the light and dark both burning dire, a countdown to the earth's expire. Below, on hopes and dreams they send, three heroes at the world's end. The night which makes with blackened knife, shall duel with heroes strife by strife. The third hero, the prince, alone in deepest dark. The first hero, the cage with human soul and parts. And last was the girl, at last was the girl. The second hero, the girl with hope crossed on her heart. Love finds its way to the girl. The last prophecy, the story's end. And then when all hope is lost for the tale, the final tragedy unveils. To save the world, there is only one way. Only then will the world be saved. Hi, I'm Uni, and what I just read to you was the prophecy that we see in Chapter 4 of Deltarune. Currently, this is everything that we know about the prophecy, and that is explained to us, but there's some information that is still given to us that typically gets neglected. This next part might take a bit because I want to analyze everything that we might have missed about the prophecy. This will include information that we gather from Undertale and provide some interesting theories later in the video. Alright, to begin breaking down the prophecy, let's start analyzing what we know first. The third hero and the prince is Ralse. And that's about it. If that seems a little underwhelming, then I agree, but it's made that way on purpose. See, Toby Fox created the prophecy and imaging in a way that leaves multiple things up in the air, so we're never sure about anything. In my last theory video, I suspected that Chris was dead, and their part of the prophecy explains that Chris, the body, is the human parts, while us, the players, are the human soul. And I still believe this wholeheartedly, but there's also other theories that I've come across that the cage could be our vessel, the one we created at the start of the game. Assuming that we have Ralse and Chris's prophecies down, let's move on to the second hero, the girl with hope crossed on her heart. See, when it comes to this part of the prophecy, this is the one I have seen the most debate about, and I want to give credit to @BioBack64 on X as well as @Rakanza1, because viewing their posts on theories of what this part of the prophecy could be has given me the creativity to explore it further as well. While I have seen theories exploring that Susie isn't actually the third hero, and could instead be the final boss, there's one key fact that I want to take note of, and it's the gameplay of Deltarune. See, we know from playing the game that no matter how many times you break or smash the prophecy, it will happen, and explains that to you in multiple ways throughout your gameplay, from chapter 1 to chapters further and beyond. But the most prominent in this chapter has been the fact that the prophecy keeps reappearing. We also know that the Dark Worlds manifest under the will of whoever made the Dark Fountain. This explains why the prophecy that says the girl keeps reappearing for Susie's second sanctuary, because the thing most on her mind is her own prophecy. I wanted to make this connection apparent because a lot of people tend to forget that the prophecy is told in an exact order, and Toby Fox loves the association of names, and that the name given for Susie is the girl, which connects both the Rude Buster prophecy, which is and last was the girl, at last was the girl, and the second hero, the girl, with hope crossed on her heart, specifying the fact that there is a comma there, so we can make the connection that the second hero is the girl. Now that we got that out of the way, there was also some interesting things that I just wanted to briefly point out. First is that all the prophecies created from Susie's Dark World are in purple, and yet despite them being in the second sanctuary that Susie created, there's one prophecy still in blue, the Roots prophecy. I don't know, I just thought it was pretty interesting to point out for all those Roots theory fans out there. The other interesting thing I found out was while scrolling through TikTok, after actually creating the script for this video, I came across a post from @BigBox_678, which reminded me about Asgore's research and what the Fun Gang found out about the Dark Fountains that had been existing long before they found Castletown and became heroes. See, what's interesting about that is that it's actually explained in the third part of the prophecy that reads as follows. A world basked in purest light, beneath it grew eternal night. It even further explains later in the prophecy when it talks about the three heroes. But lo, on hopes and dreams they sinned, three heroes at the world's end. So when Chris, Susie, and Ralsei, assuming these are the three heroes mentioned, become heroes, the world is already nearing its end. The next piece I wanted to analyze was the words that came up that we can associate with Undertale. I began thinking of this after hopes and dreams kept reappearing as keywords for chapter 5, so I wanted to take a look back at the prophecy, and one word stood out to me immediately. Love. See, this word was key in Undertale, especially the genocide route. As stated, Love 2 is an acronym. It stands for level of violence, a way of measuring someone's capacity to hurt. The only thing I was missing was a way to place love onto Susie. But then, I found it. See, before chapter 5 came out, it was pretty hard to identify everyone's roles. I mean, we all had our theories, but no confirmations or where to place certain relationships. But chapter 5 gave us the evidence that we needed. I believe that Susie's love is from Noelle. It's a double entendre. I mean, love comes to Susie in the form of Noelle, and throughout this whole entire gameplay, we've watched it grow. We know that Susie is enjoying going on adventures and enjoying her new life and spending time with her friends, especially Noelle. We also know that she wants to get Noelle involved in all of this being the Dark Fountains and everything. And that right there is where my speculation comes in. If the prophecy is true no matter what, it will happen, like we saw with Lancer and the other boss entries. Where does Noelle fit in this? And I think I found the answer. Noelle is the love. I put a lot of thought into what the final piece of the prophecy that got Susie so mad could be. Susie got so enraged, she punched the prophecy, causing herself to bleed. Well, what if something were going to happen to Noelle? I mean, remember, Susie saw the prophecy. She knows what will happen at the very end for them to try and prevent the roaring. She loves Noelle and would do anything for her, and if anything were to happen to her, she would do anything to get her back or avenge her. The prophecy states that love finds its way to the girl. This could be Noelle finding her way to Susie, and Susie falling so much for Noelle that if anything were to happen to her, she would commit an act of violence, and her capacity to hurt would increase drastically. This segment is fairly short, but I want to save a kind of explanation as to what got me thinking in this direction. See, I figured the end of the prophecy wouldn't be something that would happen to any of the Fun Gang because of what Susie says right after reading it. She goes on to say, I wouldn't let it happen, Chris wouldn't let it happen, and Ralsei, I know you wouldn't let it happen. I also didn't think it would be anything happening to Castletown, because as we currently know, they are trying to close all of the other Dark Fountains and leave Castletown as the only one in order to keep balance. The prophecy actually supports this theory of balance because at the end of it, it doesn't just say, then the world will be saved. It says, only then will the worlds be saved, plural. This to me is clear evidence that not just the world of Lightners, but also Darkners will be saved at the end of the prophecy after whatever the final tragedy will be. At last, we are nearing the end. Despite that though, this might be the most important part of this theory, so I really encourage you to stick around to the end. The Deltarune. There are 3 instances that we can take note of that mentions the Deltarune. The first being that this is the world of Deltarune, which we know because of the second part of the prophecy stating, the legend of this world, Deltarune, in name. The second instance that we see it being named is when we hear of the Deltarune, the actual symbol that keeps reappearing in the game with the winged circle and the 3 triangles. See, the main thing I wanted to note here are that the winged circle represents the angel, and the 3 triangles represent the 3 heroes as seen in Chris's room in Castletown. And one interesting fact about this is that we know as Chris and Susie are represented as pink and blue, that theirs is facing upwards because they're lightnings, and Ralsei's is facing downwards as he's a darkling. I just thought that part was interesting. We know the Deltarune also appears in Undertale, with the winged circle being the angel and the triangles being the monsters in the underground that will free them from captivity down there. Another thing I wanted to note as well is that in Undertale, we know the Deltarune can often be seen as the angel of death coming to free the monsters from their mortal realm. This version depicts the genocide route and the upbringing of Kara through Frisk to then kill every monster and erase the file. See, that part of the theory there is what I wanted to point out because we know that in Deltarune, the prophecy has likely been interpreted differently or changed from what it once was, as evident from Gerson. Gerson goes on to explain that it's quite funny how stories can be retold and changed, like his story Lord of the Hammer had been altered and made into Dragon Blazers. He also explains to Susie that the prophecy, just like stories such as Lord of the Hammer, can be retold and changed, and that it's usually better that way. We still don't know the identity of the angel, but we do know of how Undertale came to be created, and an assumption can be made from it that the angel is the soul, us, the player. See, Deltarune is not exactly like Undertale. Your choices will not affect the ending, and we know there will be only one ending. But Deltarune is an anagram of Undertale. It can be switched around and still hold some similarities. What I think is similar in this case is us. Our actions can change the prophecy and alter it to change how we will get to the end. See, while we can't alter the ending of the story itself, I believe that we can choose to be the angel or the angel of death. That's why when Susie smashes the prophecy, we, the soul, don't get to see it. It's up to us to fill in those gaps with our own actions. And yet no matter what we do, the ending doesn't change. We know from Toby Fox directly that Deltarune will only have one ending. However, he goes on to say that there's something more important than reaching the end. And he's right. It's the story. Deltarune the entire time has always been about exploring the story. We will save the worlds. And throughout our entire gameplay, we learn from all of the secret bosses of freedom to do it how we want. And lastly, the third instance of it. It's the end of the story. We're almost there, but it is still waiting. Tell me, how much longer now?